What is up, guys? DT Ninja here to give you guys my RuroKen Hokkaido Arc Chapter 42 review and discussion. Okay, guys, it has been a while since the last video, but a lot of things have happened. I'm in a new location, so this is my new apartment, and I have a new setup for Kenshin here, but I will be continuing the review and discussions. In fact, I'm currently working on Chapter 45. But yeah, this is for Chapter 42. As you guys know, in Chapter 42, Hyobe the Skull, or Rogo, as Kenkaku Heki call him, faces off against Cyto and Nagakura in the battle in Sapporo. And of course, that battle is really interesting, strategic. The Shinsengumi face the Kenkaku Heki. However, Abe steps in with nothing but a revolver and basically starts blasting away at the skull. It was really awesome to see his skills at the forefront. That was just really neat. It gave Abe some very well needed, development, character development. His character is very interesting, and even in the latest chapter, Chapter 45, we even get more development. So I really do like what he's doing with Abe's character. But yeah, let's get to the review. As always, a big thanks to Chris JP20, my good friend, for the color scans of that intro. I'll be using them throughout the video as well. So, some notable things. First, Rogo, or Hyobe, is shown at the very beginning of the chapter. So this is the volume 7 of the Hokkaido Arc. I'll be looking at the chapter so guys can see a closer look. Now, basically, Rogo is there, Hyobe is there with Cyto and Nagakura, and we're obviously beneath the clock tower in Sapporo. So that is an actual place. But yeah, the first thing I noticed is this. I think I may have mentioned it in the last chapter, but Rogo, Hyobe, the skull, he is basically surrounded in like this, these blades. They're like blades that cover him, and he's like in the center of them. It's like he's being protected by some kind of spherical, I guess that's why they call it spherical crest, of mayhem, of destruction. But like, he's in that. You'll see him while he's kind of just relaxed, not really attacking, but that thing is protecting him. So very interesting. The next thing I noticed is this. Nagakura and Cyto talk about how Rogo, or Hyobe the Skull, is very similar, reminds them of Hattori Sensei. Now what's interesting about this is that Hattori Sensei was of the Gordio Eiji. He was also someone that Abe truly looked up to. And they were the ones that killed him. So his last words were basically, do you honestly believe that the Gordio Eiji are evil? I want to know your answer when I see you again in hell. So what's interesting about this is Cyto mentions that this guy, Rogo, or Hyobe the Skull, is not like him at all, doesn't resemble him at all. But the thing is, Abe makes a stand in this chapter. So the fact that, this is in the back of his mind, that the Gordio Eiji are not evil, in his mind, Abe makes a stand. He impresses the hell out of the Shinsengumi. Nagakura is very impressed. Cyto is shocked at how good Abe truly is. So we kind of get a little understanding of why he's having this, kind of memory in the back of his head. Maybe that's just what it is. Abe actually is able to show him that, yeah, maybe it's not the, what we're thinking. But yeah, I thought that was very interesting. The next thing, it seems he's able to attack and defend at the same time. I'm talking about Rogo. Hyobei the skull. You can see him attacking with this huge spherical ball of blades. It's just crazy when you see the actual attack like coming towards them. You see, that's a really neat scene. But apparently, at the very center of it, that's where the skull is. But here's where you see like the blades coming out. They look very similar to the scythe blade, which would explain how there's so many of them. So basically, it just seems like it's a copy blade of the original scythe blades. It's not like he's actually slashing with his two blades and it's making all those. No, I don't think that's the case. But yeah, he's able to attack and defend at the same time. So you can see him attacking and defending at the same time. Now the next thing I noticed is this. Rogo, or Hyobei the Skull, is soaring above using this destructive, spherical crest attack. You can see him way above Cyto and Nagakura here. And it just seems to be like the actual attack is causing them to go above them. It's almost like he's in mid-air as he's doing this. It's like almost like wind or something that's actually causing it. All the destruction. You can see the buildings being destroyed. So that's very interesting. It also shows him upside down. You can actually see him here. So the next thing I noticed is this. There are two eye types. You can see the one that kind of looks like the one he had when he has like this, like looking at someone, looking through someone, being able to understand what's in their head or whatever. And then the other one seems to be an attack itself, the spiral eyes. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but the fact that they show both of them, there has to be a hint there. Maybe it has to do with the attack. Maybe it actually has to do that they are actually two. It's Hyobei Futatsu. And Futatsu never had the two people. It actually had twins, which makes sense because in chapter 44 we learn they are brothers, the Hyobei brothers. So it's not one large man, it's actually two brothers. But that could explain why there's two types of eyes here. Maybe, that's a possibility. Okay, the next thing. You can see something coming out of Nagakura's sword right here. Okay, so Cyto prepares his Gatotsu, and Nagakura and him have a plan to attack the skull. So basically what they do is Nagakura, he shoots, he jumps up and he cuts through. You can see the ball of blades right there. He cuts through them, but look right here. You see something coming out from his sword. The moment one of those blades strike his own, like there's something coming out there. And that causes him to take away their gravity, their center of gravity, which basically makes them immobile. They can't move. But I found that interesting that you can actually see Nagakura's, kind of energy wave coming from his sword. It's not from the enemy. You can see it actually is there. So right when the blade attacks, strikes, before it even happens, he's already like, oh, he can't move. You can see the black and white there. That's basically like, time stops for that person. So basically they're like, oh, I can't move. Oh my god, what's happening? So that's pretty cool. And then Cyto stabs him in the eye. So Cyto prepares his Gatotsu. You can see it right here. And look at his eye. You can see his eyes wide, so he's like, oh crap, look, something's coming. But then you look here, I noticed this, his eye, he's going in to stab his eye, but it almost looks like it's hollow rather than something that's getting stabbed. So what I'm thinking here is that the eye socket was hollow. So that means the face, the head was down. They must have moved because that explains how they were able to move and their eyes light up again after the attack. So we're going to show you what I'm talking about. He stabs him, right? And look, when he gets him right through the eye to the back of the head, the blood squirts out. But if it squirted in his eye, he certainly wouldn't show that eye right afterwards, right? So I'm thinking maybe there's another body part he actually hit, and that's where the blood's coming out. And you wouldn't know because the skull mask is rather convincing. It's just like there's actually nothing there. It's just there holding together. So that's just my take on it. Maybe, you know, something else is there, like an elbow or something. I'm not sure. But I noticed it, and I wanted to share that. Okay, the next thing. Rogo is shot in the back of the head. So Abe shows up, right? He shows up. He jumps from the clock tower, which is this is crazy. He jumps from the clock tower, lands on the back of his shoulders, and shoots him point blank in the back of the head. So, first of all, Abe had to have jumped. How in the hell did that work? We're going to get to that later in the discussion, but yeah, I found that interesting. And then he moves after he gets shot in the back of the head. And something tells me that he missed. He had to have. If you shoot someone in the back of the head, I don't care if you're a god of death or whatever, you can't move after that. So that's another clue that there's probably more than one of them, or that they were able to move out in time. And it's probably the same situation that happened when he got stabbed. But the fact that he was able to dodge that quickly is pretty crazy. Now, seeing Abe's skill in action in this chapter was just freaking awesome. You can just see him blasting away, reloading like a madman. It's almost like the enemy didn't know that was even he was capable of that. Look at Cyto's eyes, and Nagakura is really excited to see Abe in action as well. I found that very interesting. Okay, the next thing, because we're just basically going through the chapter here. You can see Abe in the background here. This is the backstory after Aburunakoji. Aburunakoji is the incident where they killed Hattori Sensei. He wants to get revenge a few weeks later and assassinate the Shinsengumi commander, Commander Asami Kondo. So what happens is Abe persistently keeps saying, I want to be the one to take the shot. But they reject him. So you can see his frustration. And the interesting thing is he's not even shown with a gun. He's shown with a sword. It's almost like you're not even worth my time, whoever that was. Yamamura's way better shooter than you. But in this chapter, I beg to differ. Because obviously he missed. He shot the shoulder, but he missed his opportunity to kill him. So, anyways, it's interesting. That was very... it gives us a good indication on why Abe is the way he is. Now, the next thing, in the apple orchard, this is in the back of his, backyard of his house. You can see he's been shooting the stems of the apples. Now look up here. There's like this light that is right one apple. He's looking at it right here. What's interesting about this is that in the chapter, when he shoots Rogo, the skull, you can see he actually shoots and it goes upward. So what I'm thinking is actually when he attacked him, so what I'm talking about is here. The last time he attacks him before the chapter ends, you can see like it goes this way and it goes up. And the last one finally shoots him. It actually hits the mark. So what I'm thinking here is that by doing that in the apple orchard, it was a way of making a lot more precise attacks and very, very effective. Like, that was really cool to see. And it's not just him shooting stems of apples. That was actually supposed to be a person. So that's very interesting, and I like how it's connected there. I'm pretty sure that's why it shows that apple in focus, and why it shows Rogo getting the shot right here. So he actually hits the mark. So. There's one more thing I wanted to share in this chapter, and that is that the Gato gun in the Otaru campaign, right here, the Gato gun in the Otaru campaign is the same exact gun as Abe's. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. Okay, so look at this. This is the gun that he uses, the Colt Revolver, which is a very effective gun, by the way. You see it right there in the target. He uses that in the chapter. Now look at this in chapter 26. The title of the chapter has the Gato gun right there. It's the same exact model gun that the Kinkaku Heki used. Now, maybe the author wanted to reuse the design because it's a pretty badass gun, but the fact that the Kinkaku Heki were using or, kind of smuggling those guns in the previous one, it's almost like it was a prelude to what we're going to see. And not only that, remember we went from swords to guns to Gatling guns, and what was the other one? There was even a better gun, pistols and rifles. That was it. It was rifles. So we got a precursor to what we're getting in Sapporo, where we get Abe and the firearms expert. That's what I think. So I found that very interesting, and that just made the chapter even better to me. Okay, let's get to the discussion questions, because the discussion questions are still up in the air. I don't know fully how to answer some of these, but we're gonna try to tackle them. Number one, what is the Shashiki? Now, the Shashiki is the Gatotsu that Cyto uses in this chapter. We're talking about this one. Okay, the Shashiki is basically an explosive instantaneous attack. Similar to the Zero Gatotsu in a way, but a little different. You need a little setup, and that's why Nagakura uses his strategy here to basically make it just a sitting duck type thing. He uses Gatotsu, but he's got all the time in the world, and also he's not going to be interrupted or blocked at all. So that Shashiki was very effective. Now, it's the fourth type of Gatotsu. It's not as effective as a Gatotsu in terms of Zero Gatotsu. However, like I said, in terms of explosive power and instantaneous attacks, it's very good. And we see that. However, the sword that he uses, you can see after being hit once with one of the blades of the enemy, it shatters. But it's because he used the Shashiki once already. So that's what happens. And the next question along with that, did Cyto inflict damage to Rogo? Now, what I'm talking about is here. You can see the blood come out of the back of the head. There's definitely some damage there, but it wasn't the eye. How did it come out of the back of the head? What I'm thinking here is that is a pretty hard skull mask, right? So it's probably easy to hide yourself, or maybe he hid, or another body part is being struck. I don't know if it's shoulder or elbow or what, but it seems like something else got struck, and maybe because they're brothers. Rogo is actually two brothers. Called Hyobe Mataza and Hyobe Matasuke. Maybe one of the brothers moved the other one, and the other one got hit, and that's why one actually is injured and got hit. But that's my thinking. I think one of them got hit, and another body part. I don't believe it's the head. We don't actually see any damage to the head. So, but I do believe there is damage. It's just not what it appears to be. Okay, the next one. How does Nagakura take away his opponent's center of gravity? Okay, so I'm going to explain this by sharing not only from this chapter, but also the other chapters. So Nagakura in chapter 11 faces off against Sojiro, right? We know it's Sugimura, but now we know it's Nagakura. And of course he uses, 2 steps short of Shikuchi, and he's just playing around with him, right? Well, he basically provokes him, and he goes right in for an attack, and this is what happens. He attacks him, he hits his hat, but then, the moment that his blade touches, he actually is able to pause, make the opponent immobile. And how he does that is that there's some kind of something emanating from his sword. You can even see it right here when Sojiro uses Wakizashi against Nagakura here, and he basically made him immobile, and he can't move. You can see it right there. He's like, how does it feel to be stuck, being snared in the dragon's tail, is what he calls it. But yeah, that's very interesting. Let's look at the other ones. So, in chapter 39, we get Hattori Sensei, right? Hattori Sensei falls victim to it as well. You can see it right here. The blades clash right here, and you can see it again. The moment they clash, he's able to basically take away their gravity, and that's where the black and white comes in. And then again, I'll show it one more time. He does it again against Rogo. So basically, that just sets them up for a kill shot. So basically, he's going to slice the sword down and cut them in half. But they can't move. They're immobile. They're helpless. So that's a very unique ability called the Dragon's Tail. That's a very unique ability of Nagakura. And I think it's very interesting. Okay, number 3. What is the dual-bladed Haori, or the dual-blade Haori, and the Spherical Crest of Destruction? So the Spherical Crest of Destruction we first saw in chapter 21. We're talking about this one. It creates complete destruction. Grinded their bones down. You can see some of the officers being grinded down and destroyed, completely became skulls themselves. Hence the name Rogo. Rogo means skull. So, but yeah, that's a very interesting technique. There's one thing I did notice. The blades are usually crossed. You can see the blades exactly right there. The first blade, the second blade. They're usually crossed in some manner. And I feel like that actually is what causes him to evoke or make the blades surround him. So he's not actually whip smacking the blades like a maniac. You don't actually see his arms moving, right? But he's got the blades crossed, so something there causes these blades to just surround him, and that makes him pretty much invincible. But in the later chapters, we learn there's actually 4 blades. That's the hidden secret of the dual blade Haori. Now, dual blades just means there's 2 blades, which we learn later there's 4. And Haori is just the fact that it covers his body. The blades actually cover his body like a battle armor. So it makes him pretty much invincible. Now, Abe has exposed him in this chapter. However, we don't really know much more about this attack, but that's just my personal kind of feeling about the attack itself. The way that it's shown, sometimes it's not very many blades, so it seems like he's able to control it pretty well. You can see it's wrapped around here, so it seems like he can attack after being attacked itself. So Nagakura attacked it, right? But then it came right back at him. So there has to be another secret to it. But that's my feeling on it. It is a, 2 blades and the Haori, but when he crosses the blades, they literally somehow are created around him like a sphere. That's why it's called the Spherical Crest. But yeah, anyways, that's my take on it. And it completes, complete destruction. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Now, there is a way around it, and we'll learn that in the later chapters. Okay, number 3. How did Abe land on Rogo's shoulders? Rogo is basically vulnerable at this point, right? And then he talks like, I'm the god of death, I control death, there's no way you can beat me. Abe jumps on the back of his shoulders, and he's basically helpless at this point. So, for me, I think that Abe must have thought that he's right there. So he just, bam, like shot him in the back of the head, and you actually see the mask move. So I feel like he moved out of the way, like one of them, Mataza or Matasuke, they both moved, or one of them moved the other, and one had damage, but we don't actually see the blood like we did when the eye came, when he tried to stab the eye. Maybe he missed completely. But that's my take on it. But how did he do it? Did he jump off the roof? I mean, this is the Sapporo clock tower. I mean, that is a pretty tall tower. For him to jump all the way down, he could be cut in half if he's not careful, right? Or if he misses, he could break his legs. So that's another thing. Did he jump from there to a tree and just happen to see them? That's probably the logical explanation. There probably was a tree nearby, and he climbed the tree. That's because I don't think he would jump from the building. That just seems like crazy suicide, right? But that's my take on it. Yeah. So the last question is, what is the real reason that Abe wants to see the Shinsengumi lose? So Abe obviously has this mentality in the back of his mind that the Shinsengumi must lose because he has lost over and over and over. Like, it's just failure has become his friend, like just over and over. First at Aburanakoji, then at the revenge to take out the assassination of Asami Kondo, and then he joins the Sekihotai, but then Sozo Sagara is beheaded, so this gives him another failure, and then he has to join another, and it's just like an endless cycle of failures. But the real reason why that Abe wants to see the Shinsengumi lose, that is it. It's his own failures. It's not necessarily just because of the Shinsengumi killing Hattori Sensei or, Kashitaro Ito. It's not necessarily that. It's the fact that the Shinsengumi won. And even though he was on the losing side, he joined the winning side, and he still lost. To him, it's a failure in his eyes. So that's the reason why he feels the Shinsengumi must lose, the Shinsengumi. However, we saw him in action, so it was awesome to see, because when Hattori died, he had to stand there. When he wanted revenge, he had to stand there. When he was going to do something for Sekihotai, he had to witness the humiliation of losing their leader, right? Sozo Sagara. So I'm just saying that the real reason is because of his own, the failures that came to him. And the Shinsengumi were at the forefront of Abara no Koji, so that was the reason. But anyways, guys, that is my discussion. There will be a review and discussion for Chapter 43. I hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.